Everyone. My name is Terry Wason, and I am the area manager at Smart Technologies, responsible for South Asia. I'm here to bring the perspective of the private sector to this discussion. I'll start with an introduction to Smart Technologies. I have about 10 slides, and I think I should be done in about 10 to 12 minutes. The first slide is about Smart Technologies. This is essentially to give you an overview of who we are, what has been in our involvement in some of the big projects which are out, which we have rolled out there, and perhaps share from our experience of rolling out these big projects. So SMART is based in Calgary in Canada. We are the ones who invented the interactive whiteboard, which is now called the SMART board. We pioneered the finger touch technology more than 20 years ago. We hear a lot about finger touch technology now, thanks to introduction of Win 7. We believe that Win 7 is going to be as disruptive to the computer education as the Windows was back in the early 90s. We saw when Windows came out, we moved on from data operating system to applications which required a different interaction of the person with the computer. Started using the mouse and all the applications. Everything that you did was Windows driven. It was everything was graphic user interface driven, and it has really changed the way we work with the computers. The same potential to disrupt the technology now with the Windows 7. It's going to make touch an integral part of how we're going to interact with the computers, and we have that experience. We've had that experience for about 20 years now. There are about 1.6 million interactive whiteboards supplied worldwide, which means like our products are being used in 1.6 million classrooms in all over the world. And we are the global interactive whiteboard category share leaders. Now, large-scale deployments. Since this morning, I have heard at least thrice that what the biggest challenge that we have is the implementation of technology. To choose the technology, the product, the platform, yes, it is a challenge, but it's not as much of a challenge as it is to implement that technology in a fast, efficient manner, equally all across the geographies and all of the populations. And this challenge is actually even more exaggerated. It's even more prominent in a country the size of India and a country as diverse as India. We've seen this happen. We've deployed big projects in UK, and I'm going to elaborate on all these 3 or 4 countries that I've mentioned, just to, again, like I mentioned, to share our experience from these countries. In UK, early in this decade, in about 2001, 2002, they decided to bring in ICT into all the classrooms, and they rolled out a program called Building Schools for the Future. And as a part of this initiative, they put in interactive whiteboards. They started putting interactive whiteboards into the classrooms about 6 years ago. And about 6 years, they've gone, the penetration of the interactive whiteboards has gone from 0 to about 75% classrooms right now, which means like 3 out of 4 classrooms have got interactive whiteboards. And we have about 60% market share of that market. Now, having worked closely with the UK government in the last 6 years, right from the inception stage, from the inception of the idea to the introduction, then through the growth stage, and then through the maturity, has given us a very unique perspective. We've been a partner in the implementation of the technology. We realize that, that there are different challenges at each and every stage of the introduction of technology. The challenges, the requirements, the questions that you hear from the principals, from the class teachers, from the students, from the technology coordinators, from the decision makers, the ministers, they're all different at each and every stage. At initial stage, the question would be as simple as, what is an interactive whiteboard? What does it really do? I mean, how can I really use it? How does it make my life easier? The students will have different questions. And then go through that initial hump of introducing the technology, getting over that initial chasm. And then the next challenge comes, which is actually a bigger challenge, which is the growth. How do you make sure that your technology is rolled out fast all across the country? That has taught us a lot. We find that one of the biggest thing, one of the most important thing at that stage is the teacher training. You need to be able to train your teachers all across the country, fast, efficient, quick manner, in order for them to adopt that technology, in order for them to to adopt that technology to create meaningful lessons and create and deliver those lessons to the students. And we have that experience of the training as well. Mexico is another example, very interesting example. And I heard, I think Professor Pillai mentioned that our dropout rates in India are something like 89%, that 89 students drop out by the time they hit grade 10. It's nothing unique about India, actually. We see that happen in other countries too. And in Mexico, they realized that there was a high dropout rate in that country as well. They found that even though the dropouts were more at the age of 14s and 15s when the kids turned teenagers, but they realized that the disenchantment or the alienation from the education actually happened at the pre-teen stage of, when the student is about 12 to 13 years. 11 to 13 was the age when they really started getting alienated from education. So they decided that all the grade 5 and grade 6 classrooms all across the country, all across Mexico, they're going to put ICT into the classrooms. So about 3 or 4 years ago, they rolled out a program called Encyclomedia, which is a combination of two words, encyclopedia and multimedia. And they rolled out, in about 180 classrooms, 180,000 classrooms all across Mexico. They put in interactive whiteboard and the digital content, PC projectors, the whole 9 yards. And Smart has got more than 1/3 of that share. So again, we have that experience of rolling out large technology in a large space in a very short period of time. New South Wales, Australia, it's a district, a state in Australia, which is the size of about 300,000 square miles, which is about 1.5 times the size of Rajasthan or UP, which are the largest states in India. About 41,000 students in that state, they are all using ICT, and they're all actually using smart technologies. What we've done there is we have a solution which is actually a distance learning solution. It's a conferencing solution. One teacher could be sitting in one particular school, and the students in far out communities in rural areas, or perhaps even at home, can be part of that lesson. And that perhaps addresses the point raised by Professor Ramamurthy, that perhaps the need is that we need to take the student-teacher equation from 1:20 to perhaps 1:200. So that's happening out there. There are technologies available now by which you can address that problem. And finally, the U.S. There again, President Barack Obama has decided that in the next 2 to 3 years they're going to take the penetration of ICT from less than 10% 2 years ago to about 60%. There again, we have been working very closely. We have about 67% market share in the U.S. So that gives us, again, a pretty important perspective on the things. Now, coming to the role of ICT in education, well, it's safe to assume that out of all the parameters in economy, that parameters like factories, machines, land, infrastructure, the most important parameter is perhaps the human, and that the human development is the key to sustaining growth, and it's more relevant in India's knowledge-based economy. And again, I think everybody agrees to this, that the ICT is critical to education systems that prepare students for this knowledge economy. And ICT can help deliver quality education and materials across vast geography at lower cost and faster speeds than previously possible. So there is a pressure to reform the systems of learning in the face of this globalization and economic competition. And we find there are independent studies out there which have been saying that that in the next 2 years, and then perhaps in the next 3 to 4 years, about 50% of classrooms globally will have interactive whiteboards. And by interactive whiteboards, I could actually say ICT. 20% by the year 2013, and very soon after that, it's going to go from 20 to 50%. And there is definitely a need for technologically literate and global citizens, and that need is increasing. And these are the phrases which I heard again from Professor Ramamurthy, and that is access and equity. And we believe that ICT definitely can bring access, quality, and equity to education. the right to education